So, Muhammad Bin Salman said Saudi Arabia will not finalize its normalization deal with Israel if it does not accept a Palestinian state. What state is he talking about? Oh, yeah, the two-state solution. He says it as if it's beneficial to the Palestinian people. This is a state that the US is planning to help establish, but without a standing military, without a standing army. So, how is his statement helpful? Several Muslims all over the world and even human rights activists are happy that he made this statement, which is supposed to apply pressure to the Israelis. Sure, the aim is to apply pressure on Netanyahu and the Israeli government. But let's look at a few things here. One, Saudi Arabia persuaded several Muslim countries, Arab Muslim countries, to normalize their relationship with Israel, and normalization simply means publicizing their relationship. So what they were doing in secret in the past, they should now do in the open. So Sudan was persuaded to do so that it will secure a loan from the Saudis, or rather a handout. Bahrain did the same, and Morocco as well. I think Morocco did it, and I'm sure Morocco normalized its relationship with Israel so that it will get this huge land that they were fighting, that they were conflicting with Algeria over. So the US acknowledged that the land belongs to Morocco in exchange for normalizing its relationship with Israel. And then the UAE did the same, and one is wondering, what will the UAE get in exchange besides just being outrightly treacherous? And the same reason with Saudi Arabia. Why will Saudi Arabia restore relationship, or rather establish an open relationship with Israel? In other words, normalization. It's simple. The US controls Saudi Arabia, and this very statement by Muhammad Bin Salman proves it. That's in addition to everything else, but this proves it. How? Good question. Well, if you're asking it, that is, you see, the United States of America is realigning its forces in terms of economic, political, and military forces, but mainly economic forces, towards containing China. And it needs to reduce the load on its economy in terms of military expenditure in other places. And Israel, it sucks a lot of money from the United States of America, because the US has to dedicate a lot of its budget in defending Israel, in financing its warships and whatnot to defend Israel. So the grand plan that the United States has is ensure the two-state solution comes into place, which will supposedly make the surrounding Muslim nations happy, and then normalize, meaning Israel will not be regarded as an occupier anymore. It will be regarded as a normal state, nation state existing like Syria, Lebanon, and other places. Now, we shouldn't forget that the divided Arab Muslim world that we see today was created in 1916 in the Sykes-Picot Agreement, which was essentially carved out by Britain and France. And of course, the United States became the superpower after World War II, and it continued on that track. So the two-state solution, which was first proposed in 1937, I think, has now been, and it was proposed by the British government at the time when it was the superpower. But now the US has taken over, and it is happy with the plan, and it wants to see it officially instated. Donald Trump was very proud to say that he was the one to claim victory for securing the deal. Now, Donald Trump has a good relationship with Netanyahu, at personal levels. And the truth is, Netanyahu has a better relationship with Republicans in the United States of America, whereas the Democrats, not so much. Yet, both the Democrats and the Republicans have the same plan, which is for there to be a two-state solution where there is Israel and there is Palestine. And the demand of the Muslim Ummah is that Israel does not deserve to exist. The whole land belongs to Palestine. But the Muslim leaders are not in sympathy, do not sympathize with the people they are ruling. Rather, their entire action, their actions are in line with the policies of their Western masters, be it Britain or the United States of America. Now, the US has been urging Israel, specifically Netanyahu, to end the war with Gaza, to stop the attacks, to put an end to it, because he's jeopardizing the normalization deal with Saudi Arabia. Because it's like they feel if this deal goes through and Saudi Arabia, a country that has been pretending to be the leader of the Muslim Ummah, especially Sunni Muslim, for decades now, if it normalizes with Israel, it becomes kind of an official declaration for the Muslims. That's what they think, or rather assume. So now Netanyahu, who is facing prison time if this war ends and he does not come to some form of a deal with the internal deep state within Israel, because the guy has committed several crimes and essentially they are accusing him of corruption, and that's the only reason he's prolonging the war. Now, this is a point that one has to reflect on. One man, Netanyahu, is prolonging a war, massacring thousands of people in Gaza, in Palestine in general, and Lebanon, simply because he, one, wants to stay in power, two, doesn't want to go to prison, he and his wife. And of course, in order to pressure him into ending the war. Now, the US, before getting to the issue of pressuring him, the US, as much as it wants Netanyahu to end the war, it can't stop supporting him and supplying him with weapons. If you look at the debate between Kamala Harris and Trump, when they came to the topic of the war between Hamas and Israel, it's essentially about both of them, both candidates were trying to prove, to convince their audience how much they love Israel and how much they will not abandon Israel no matter what. Now, why is Israel so important to the United States of America? Simple. If Israel exists, it is a cause, it's an element that creates division between the Muslim Ummah, or rather further deepens the division amongst the Muslim Ummah. And with the existence of Israel, a vulnerable, weak state, so the US will have a claim for, will have a justification for placing its military in the Middle East. This is so that it depends its own economic and colonial interest in that region. But without Israel, it wouldn't really have a rational, reasonable justification for having such military bases. But they do not expect us to believe that all these military operations in the Middle East is in order to defend one single Israeli state. Because if they truly want to defend the people of Israel, why won't they take them in? Meaning, why wouldn't they just say, okay, transport yourself over to, we will transport you over to the United States. We have enough land to shelter you, to give you a home, a new home. No. They need the people, this state of Israel, to continue existence, so that, as I said, they will justify their existence in that area. Now, despite that, the existence of the Palestinian state, of a Palestinian state, is also important to the United States of America for one reason. It's a trick, okay? It's a trick they want to use to appease the Muslim Ummah that okay, the blessed land of Palestine is now safe, its people are safe, and with this Palestinian state, now they are independent from their occupiers, Israel. And hence the US will proclaim victory as a promoter of peace. Just like Donald Trump, as I mentioned, did. But the truth is that if Israel does not normalize, meaning does not establish good relationships with all these Muslim countries, especially the important ones like Saudi Arabia, the US fears that the Muslim Ummah will overthrow their rulers and install leaders that will take action and eradicate Israel, because that's how vulnerable Israel is. A fighter jet can literally fly, I think an F-15 can literally fly through Israel in and out in less than 15 minutes. So if that's the case, like no matter, let's assume it's this militarily strong, it's a myth that's being promoted, but let's assume Israel is that strong. If the surrounding countries, if the Muslim countries surrounding it stop supporting it directly or indirectly and truly attack it, not the fake thing that happened in the 1970s where Israel ended up taking over 70%, like 77% of the territory. Before the war, they only controlled 56%. So the bottom line is this: MBS making a statement saying that if Israel does not accept an independent Palestinian state with its capital in Eastern Jerusalem, stating this as a condition for normalization with Israel, that statement itself is treacherous. It's a betrayal of the Muslim Ummah, in addition to all the betrayals that they have been doing in the past. And the reason is because the very existence of Israel is an anathema to the Muslim Ummah. And now, by making this statement, and this is of course in addition to many others in the past, he is acknowledging Israel, but he's just saying his country will not grant it this official acknowledgement without accepting a Palestinian state. Now, is it because he cares about the people of Palestine? No. But because the US needs ways to pressure Netanyahu into giving up on this war. As we have seen, it has used several methods. One of which is recently we have seen protests erupt within Israel, demanding that the war should end. And we have seen reports from United States media outlets exposing some of the crimes and some of the things that Israel has been doing. It's not because the US wants the truth to be out there. No. It's just that they really need Netanyahu to get on board. And this is why the next presidential election is actually very important, because depending on who wins, the war could end. I personally believe that Netanyahu wants to prolong this war until after the election in the US, hoping that if Donald Trump wins, he will use US influence to end, or rather to ease the investigation into Netanyahu and his wife, so that he will maybe get a slap on the wrist and he will relinquish his position but doesn't go to prison. Because I think I mentioned that the guy is facing prison back at home. So all the provocative actions that Israel has been taking recently, assassinating Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran and sending explosives through pagers that were ordered by Hezbollah, all these things are steps taken by Netanyahu to ensure that the war continues. Because if he carries out this action, it will look bad on these groups to keep insisting on peace. Anyway, the point I want to make here is that Israel, it's that Muhammad Bin Salman saying that he's not going to normalize relationship with Israel is itself treacherous, And two, this is the US speaking through Muhammad Bin Salman. This is the US using its own political influence in Saudi Arabia to pressure Netanyahu into ending the war and establishing a two-state solution, which itself is another problem. Because the two-state solution, it's just another Palestinian state. A Palestinian state is just another nation state. And the nation state model has not worked in any place in the Muslim world. It only created division amongst the Muslims. It weakened them. In fact, Joe Biden has started talking about a state model where there is no standing army. So this is where we are today. Our affairs are handed over to our open enemies who have installed puppets, people that they can easily control in our lands to determine our future.